one order from us to recognize steam as the energy source from biomass as the renewable energy. I don't know, slurry was to be declared as the proper organic manure by the Ministry of Fertilizers. When I had left, it was not done. I hope it must have been done by now. I don't have that information. But what I'm trying to say is that any advancement, any new initiative or any obstacle has to be removed in time. And for that, such conferences, such seminars are very important. I must congratulate the organizer here for organizing this Bioenergy Value Chain International Summit, and I would urge them to organize it every year at regular intervals and highlight the problems which this sector is facing. I would like to particularly highlight on the technology and research that is being used in the biomass sector. Still we require a lot of refinement in the technology. Still we require a lot of research in the area. We have got Indian Institute of Biomass, but I'm sorry, that's not much is being done there. We must focus on research, we must upgrade technologies, and if we upgrade technologies, the cost of biomass energy production would come down. Biomass is a firm power, and being firm power, it has got a huge advantage. It can club with the intermittent power, and we can have the round-the-clock energy supply from the biomass. That's a big advantage, like hydro. Hydro is also a firm power. But then, yes, the cost of collection of biomass, the cost of production of energy is very high. And that's why we say the technology for reduction of cost, the easy finance at low cost for reduction of cost of energy, they are all very important. Besides a foolproof system for collection of the biomass. What people say is that they expect biomass to be procured at X rate. They do viability of their energy plant. But when they go next year, the farmers have increased the price of biomass. There is no long-term arrangement. Collection of biomass takes huge space. That's a disadvantage. If we do not pick up biomass at time, people will burn it in the fields. So all these things we have to think through. We have to make a plan, and then we have to act upon it. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not take much of your time. I would thank you for listening to me. How we can strengthen the biomass energy production system with the organizers and the various stakeholders in the government, so that we can have right policies, right planning, and right implementation for use of biomass, which is so critical in this country for production of energy and meeting the energy demand of the masses. Thank you very much and have a good day.
May I now invite Shri Alok Kumar, IAS retired, Director, the Lentau Group, and former Secretary, Power Government of India, to share a few words with us.
It is a privilege to be speaking in this session along with Dr. Kirtas Parekh and my senior colleague Shri Anand Kumarji and Mr. Shashi Shekhar and Mr. Solanki. So friends, you will have to bear with some repetition because a lot of stalwarts have spoken before me, but I will still like to give my perspective in a larger way about the context of energy transition, what is India's strategy and where does bioenergy stands and what we need to do. We are all aware of the imperatives of the global warming, and year 2023 has been one of the warmest year in last 1 lakh years. And every day of that year, last year was having a temperature at least 1 degree C above the pre-industrial era. So we are heading A very grave situation. As against the goal of temperature rise in Paris Agreement, that is aspirationally 2 degrees C, but at least 1.5 degrees C rise we should limit. The projections from UNEP emissions gap report say that we are heading for something between 2.5 to 2.9 degrees C. So there is a lot of international mobilization and pressure for everybody to work for combating the climate change and global warming. In recent times, you must have read about RBI talking about the impact of climate change on the food prices and food inflation. Highest level courts in India and abroad, they have given their rulings that fighting climate change is a legal right to, a part of right to life. And so where is India placed? It's a very interesting story about India. India is a low income country, developing country. Its per capita income is less than, even in PPP terms, is less than 50% of the global average. Same is the situation for per capita electricity consumption, per capita energy consumption, per capita emissions. And India has a legitimate aspiration to become Viksit Bharat and to become a developed country. So we plead our case in all international forum that India has a right to grow and develop. So our total emissions will grow, but emissions will also grow. But at the same time, India would come under increasing pressure from global community. We can't ignore it, because very soon India will be the second largest emitter in the world after China. Because there are three big emitters, US, India and China. There is a clear trend of US emissions, total emissions coming down, and China also peaking sooner than India. So after a few years, India will be targeted as the second biggest emitter. So it's very interesting story about India. On the one side, we have our development right and development aspirations. On the other hand, we will be second biggest emitter. As was being spoken before me, India has not only achieved its nationally determined contributions much ahead of the time, both the share of the electricity generation installed capacity from non-fossil fuels to be at 40%, and the reduction of emission intensity from 2005 levels to be by 33%. So we have now upped our ambitions, and now we are targeting 50% share of non-fossil fuel based electricity generation capacity and reduction of 45% in emission intensity. The achievements of India have been recognized well. There is a report by Climate Change Performance Index which puts India is the only large economy doing correct things and most correct things and achieving the best in terms of climate change. Only 3 countries which are above India are smaller countries like Denmark, Estonia and Philippines. So India has some laurels to rest upon, but India has a big challenge to move on. How is India progressing to decarbonize? If you read the long-term low carbon emission development strategy of the Government of India, there are 3 main pillars which India is pursuing. One is increasing the share of renewable energy in our energy supply. We have a very ambitious target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel based electricity generation capacity. Second pillar is electrification of our energy services. You must be reading daily about promotion of electric mobility, promoting electrification in industrial processes of electric arc furnaces, green hydrogen mission, and also electric cooking. Third pillar is the demand side management, and in a short while I will compare, like bioenergy is like a poor cousin in the energy family, like DSM, which is spoken the least. Everywhere in every platform, the solar wala and wind wala and green hydrogen, they still always the limelight, and bioenergy comes at the end, similar DSM. But friends, let me share with you this fact that demand side management or energy efficiency has contributed to more than 50% of the reduction in emission intensity in India so far. It is the main workhorse, and it is doing very well through PAT program, through standard and labeling, through our LED lighting program and energy efficient building codes. If you see in totality what is happening, power sector is on the path of very rapid decarbonization. The data from Central City Authority, they say, we currently emit around 700 grams of carbon dioxide for every unit of electricity in India. That is going to come down to around 430 grams in less than 10 years, that is in 2032. So our challenge lies in decarbonization of sectors other than power sector, which are transport and industries, heavy industry like steel and cement, and transport, which are guzzler of the oil and increasing our import dependency. India has some very interesting key challenges for meeting the large objective of its supplying the energy demand. Earlier, the Niti Aayog used to say there in the website that our energy demand will be 2.1 times more by 2047. Now they have started speaking of a higher energy demand growth of 2.5 times. So the key goal, which is non-negotiable, is how to meet the energy demand timely. So we will use whatever technology is available and affordable. I will share with you there are two set of forces which will determine the pace of India's energy transition short while. The factors which will push India's transition pace are the import dependency imperatives. We have to reduce our import dependency for becoming energy secure. I have some data. Our import dependency of oil is increasing and it's now 87.7%. And our import dependency of gas has also increased to 46.4%. So this is one imperative which will push the pace of India's energy transition. The second factor which will push India's energy transition is the potential of creating jobs through green growth, through pushing local manufacturing. These are two factors which will push India's energy transition. But what are the factors which will retard or which will be sort of the constraints on India's energy transition pace? First will be the affordability. We are a poor country, and every country in the world is looking at the affordability. Even US has brought the Inflation Reduction Act to control energy prices. If you see the tariff discovered in the recent tender of the fixed and the firm dispatchable RE, I recall the tenders, the rates discovered are in the range of 5 rupees 50 paisa. And the tariff of the solar, plain vanilla solar is in the range of 2.6. So if you have simple calculation, the cost of integrating renewable energy in India's power sector is almost between 2.5 to 3 rupees per unit. There are some hidden costs, there are some cost imperatives. The cost of green hydrogen is around $6 to $7 per kg now, whereas the alternative of the hydrogen we are using is in the range of $1 to $2 per kg. Similarly, the cost of the carbon capture and utilization is more than 2.5 rupees per unit. So affordability will be the one factor which will determine the pace of India's energy transition. Second is our ability to provide concessional finance. It is well known now that whatever are the promises and assurances by developed countries, they will not give us much of concessional finance. We'll have to fend for ourselves. So whatever India's budget and public finances can spare for viability gap funding, for incentives, that will determine the pace to which we can adopt new and costly technologies.
I'm telling you, you will not be able to sustain life on this planet. Right now, the global warming is already 1.3 degrees centigrade. By the end of this century, it is estimated that we will touch minimum 3 degrees centigrade. The best case scenario, 2.7 degrees centigrade to be precise, and the worst case scenario, 6 degrees centigrade. In 1.3 degrees centigrade, look at the kind of disasters that are taking place. What will happen? Whether human life survive by the end of this century or not is a question mark. Already we are talking about 80 years from now, 100 years from now, 120 years from now. So limiting consumption is fundamental, and if you don't do this, no energy solution, whether it's solar energy, wind energy, biomass energy, whatever it is not going to work. It's an irreversible process. Do it now, or you can never do anything. So avoid, minimize, and generate, and follow this. And the only thing that you can do for your children and should do for your children is don't develop technology. Don't develop economy. Even don't teach them. Don't send them to school. It's okay. We are already in such a disastrous situation. कुछ मत करो अपने बच्चों के लिए, करना है तो एक काम करना है. You know, leave behind a livable planet to your children. And what is livable? What is required for livable planet? Make sure that they can breathe clean air. Make sure that they can take a glass, they can drink a glass of water without any filter. And make sure they can eat a food without any chemical. I guarantee you, none of you in this hall can guarantee that the air that you're breathing is clean, the water that you can drink without any filtering, and the food that you're going to eat without any chemicals. It is a disaster of the highest level. And I keep saying, Kireji, and when I travel across the country, the modern humans are the most stupid animal ever existed on this planet. That we pollute the same water that we are only going to drink. We pollute the same air that we are only going to breathe. So please understand that we are in a serious trouble. And if it is not now, it is not going to be ever. Let us recognize that we have already created a big mess. The solution does not lie in policy making and technology growth and economy. Of course, we need policies. Of course, we need technology. Of course, we need to grow economically. But within the boundary of the nature, and nature is finite, we need to limit our consumption and we need to localize our production. With this note, I hope you go away with this and start reducing your energy consumption. We have developed many program. One of the first thing you can do is become energy literate. You know, I have written on my shirt. I don't know if you can read. Can you see on my shirt? I am energy literate. Are you? There's a free online course available. It's a very powerful course. 3 hours course only. If anything that you can do for yourself and for your company and for your people.
May I now request with this, ladies and gentlemen, I will now request Dr. S. P. Sharma for
Not Dr. Kirit Pavel, Dr. Chetan Solanki, for your enlightening address. I just want to say one word. Dinosaurs lived on this planet Earth for millions of years. The human civilization is hardly, 10,000, 15,000 years old? Dinosaurs did not destroy the planet Earth, but human beings, if they don't use energy in limited manner, the planet is going to be destroyed. So that's what Dr. Chetan Solanki's message is. And I believe that, yes, if we want to protect this planet Earth, then we will have to use energy judiciously, we will have to reduce our carbon footprint, and yes, we should have to make, energy is nothing, but the carbon emissions are nothing, but it's the way we live, the lifestyle we live. So we have to really have some sort of control on our lifestyle, the way we live.
About it, but with all due respect, Mr. Mishra, that we first need to prioritize X or Y or Z, which is about providing more energy, creating more consumption, meeting needs, most often luxury needs rather than essential needs. And then we'll worry about climate change later. When we are in a situation where we are already facing enormous hardships and temperatures will only increase. So we will be in a vicious cycle. We are in a vicious cycle if we are not very careful about it. So I do believe that we need to take a very different approach to every part of the strategy that we will be adopting to address this problem of climate change and more, and I'll come back to the more in a bit. And that is where we come to biomass as well. I think biomass has always been and continues to be a very essential, critical part of moving to a low carbon pathway. It all depends on perspectives, on what is the role that we believe that biomass can play. I think biomass has also already significantly contributed to avoiding emissions, because India has typically in the past been quite heavily dependent on biomass, traditional biomass, and to that extent the people who were consuming the traditional biomass actually did not contribute to the emissions of greenhouse gases, and we owe them a debt to that extent, and I think we need to be able to make good on that. However, going forward with the modern biomass, bioenergy that we talk about as well, the potential is huge. But at the same time, we need to recognize that the demand is huge. And I'm talking now at a global level, not about India. I think for India also we need to be very careful about how we speak about bioenergy. So every global modeling scenario that you take a look at, more often than not talks about BECCS, bioenergy and carbon capture storage, as a key strategy for being able to stay within the 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees Celsius thing. And you know, many people of course are worried about the CCS part of BECCS because there's a lot that is still unknown about it. So bioenergy has a huge role to play. It is critically important also because it can contribute enormously, and especially in the interim till we have better technologies, to address the challenges that the hard to abate sectors are facing. Industry, transport, aviation. So we talk about sustainable aviation fuel, which has a dependency on biomass. We talk about bioethanol, biodiesel, obviously coming from biomass resources. And then in industry, the hydrogen that we are talking about to meet industrial heat requirements in particular, I think will also have a very high dependence on biomass. So huge role to play, limited resources, all the challenges that we spoke about in the earlier session. I think it was Alok Kumar who spoke about it, where he spoke about the supply chain problems, collection and costs and so on. And as you rightly said, there are issues of affordability as well, because costs can be very significant. So huge role to play. How do we optimize on the use of the biomass resources? Recognize the fact that we are talking about a situation where we are today, but tomorrow, with climate change already upon us, we are going to face a much more severe water problem than what we are seeing today, with implications on the availability of biomass. And from an access perspective, if we talk about some of these bigger modern bioenergy forms, you know, how are we going to organize ourselves? So I think, Mishraji, maybe you mentioned about the fact that, no, rather the thought that came to mind was that, you know, we are focusing on our glass half full.